All right, welcome in another episode of Off-Season Grades. I'm Jeff Goodman, joined by Matt McCall, and um, this episode takes us down to Auburn, Alabama for the Auburn Tigers. Bruce Pearl coming off a historic season. They were number one 8 weeks last year. They went to their second Final Four, were knocked off by the eventual national champion Florida Gators. What a year at Auburn. What a year, a fun year to be around. Janai Broome, Miles Kelly, Dylan Cardwell, Tahad Pettiford, Chad Baker-Mazara. It was a fun group, but it ended a little bit in disappointment because I think they certainly, with the way they dominated the year, Matt, they were thinking national title and knocked off by Florida. And now it is a completely different team down there in Auburn. The only recognizable name to Auburn fans is Tahad Pettiford. He's it. And he's a guy who came off the bench a lot of the year. Electric guard, was a great piece last year. And again, had his days, man. He'd go for 20, but he was inconsistent last year. And they didn't have to rely on him. This year, they have to rely on Tahad Pettiford, and they brought in a bunch of new faces, headlined by Keyshawn Hall, the former George Mason guard, big guard is what he calls himself. And last year, he was down at UCF. Puts up numbers. And they went a variety of ways to fill out this roster, Matt. They went international. They went transfer. They went freshman. So there's a little bit of everything at Auburn right now. And I'm not sure Bruce Pearl knows what he has with this guy. In fact, I know he doesn't because I talked to him recently. He doesn't know exactly what he's got with this group. What do you make of this newly revamped Auburn Tigers team?
Well, let's start here. They got their coach back. He's not going anywhere. He's going to retire in Auburn, and maybe Stephen Pearl ultimately ends up taking over. His son, who's been with him forever, was with him in Tennessee as a player. You know, there was rumors, oh, maybe Indiana plucks him, maybe this. Oh, yeah, nope, he's
Or
staying.
maybe politics plucks him.
Yeah, maybe politics plucks him. But he's staying at Auburn. So we got to start there. 3 out of the last 4 years, he's won over 25 games. He has a 72% winning percentage for his career. So that's a win. As long as that guy's over there calling ball plays, Auburn's going to have a chance. I don't care who's on their team. Pettiford pulling out of the NBA draft was big. I think he needs another year. He needs another year of Coach Bruce Pearl developing him, teaching him how to be a true point guard, teaching him how to run their offense. So that was another big key for them to get him back and get him back into the fold. But you lose Janai Broome, who, had it not been for Cooper Flagg, had it not been for Zach Edey, probably wins National Player of the Year. Probably does.
Yes.
Okay, one of those 2 seasons probably wins National Player of the Year. But you lose that guy, and Jeff, I still don't think he was 100% healthy in the Final Four. I didn't think he moved great. I just felt like you could
He never moved great, though. Didn't he always look like he was hurt the way he moved?
To me, he just didn't look like the
I'm with you.
dominance that he had all season long. But you lose him, you're gonna, you can't just put on paper that this Auburn team's gonna win 26 games. Right. You can't just put on paper that they're gonna be the favorite to win the SEC because they lost a lot. I do like Keyshawn Hall, a little bit of a journeyman. I think he led the Atlantic 10 in rebounding one of the years that he was at George Mason. He is a big guard. He can play on the wing. He can put it down. He can get in the lane. To your point, they bring in some foreign guys. They bring in some junior college players. They bring in other high-level transfers. So, look, Bruce Pearl being over there, that's the biggest, retention point that they get. Kevin Overton from Texas Tech, Keyshawn Murphy from Mississippi State. They brought in some guys that have experience, but it's going to look completely different than it has in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I mean, again, Pettiford's got to become more of a distributing point guard, more than just going out and looking for his own, which Bruce talked about even last year, but again, was less reliant because you had Denver Jones. You had a veteran team. Now Pettiford's going to be looked upon as the guy, right? So it'll be Pettiford, Hall, and I think Keyshawn Murphy will be 3 guys that you certainly can kind of plug in. They're going to play, 28 minutes or so or more. And then I think, Overton gives you like a 3-and-D veteran wing who can make shots, guard. He's tough. So he's going to play a lot. And then after that, it's, this kid Elijah Freeman. We don't know how good this kid is from Lincoln Memorial. He shot the shit out of it, but like, can he guard? Can he, he averaged 19 a game last year at Lincoln Memorial, a school that's produced a lot of good Division I players. You bring in this fresh the kid from overseas, Philip Jovic, who's tough, hard nosed, 6'8", 230. Like just a warrior from the sounds of it. And he played a Bosnian kid who played high level basketball over there. But again, you just don't know till you see it out here. Last year, they had great chemistry. Bruce let him go. I think Keyshawn Hall fits Bruce well because he's got a big personality too. So I think, again, you're going to I think it's going to be top heavy. I think it's going to be very top heavy here with Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall each averaging 18 a game. And then I don't know, I think Murphy gives you, can he give you 10, 12?
I think him going to play for Bruce Pearl, and I love Jans. I think Jans is a great coach. I think he's, again, just a guy that gets his teams to the NCAA tournament. But that guy's got a lot of ability. And I had Mississippi State early on in the season in the Arizona tip-off, and I think that was Thanksgiving weekend. I think at that point in time, Jans had like 14 different starting lineups. It changed almost every single night. So I think him going to Auburn, them losing Janai Broome, he's going to step into a role where his role may be more consistent than it was at Mississippi State. Because he didn't know if he was starting, if he was coming off the bench, how many minutes is he playing? One night, he's going to play 28 minutes. The next night, he may play 12. And he may have more consistency. I think he could flourish for Bruce Pearl. I really do. I mean, he has
Birmingham kid who's older. Again, the one thing they've tried to do here is they understand Pettiford's still growing. So they're going to surround him with the Overtons, with the Murphys, guys like that. Give him some guys, a couple JUCO kids and the kid Abdul Bashir.
They're saying he is terrific. You're talking about a guy that averaged 27 points per game in junior college. He's a 6'7" guard. But I like the comment that you made about this could be top heavy.
It's going to be.
Guys could be playing 28, 29, 30-plus minutes per game, which for Coach Pearl, and if you're a player, if you're Keyshawn Hall, who's been a little bit of a journeyman, he's bounced around a lot, he's in his last year of college, you're going to be out there, and you're going to have the freedom to be out there. Pettiford's going to know he's starting, and the ball's going to be in his hands. He didn't know that last year. He's going to know that this year. So I do think in terms of that, it almost eliminates, some of the concern of how many minutes I'm going to get, some of the issues that may be in the locker room. Chad Baker Mazzara, we had no idea. Was he going to be the guy that got thrown out of the Yale game in the NCAA tournament, or is he going to be the guy that looks like an all-SEC player? It was very inconsistent. I think there'll be more consistency with some of these guys next year.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
Yeah, I love this group because, I just felt like they meshed together so well. Even their personalities, and Bruce let them go. This team, we'll see how that goes as Pettiford being a leader. Number one, he already had an offseason incident in which you question maybe whether he's mature enough to handle this. But I think maybe that's the best thing that could have happened to him because it wakes him up a little bit. Again, I think Overton's going to play a lot. I think Murphy's going to play a lot. Obviously, we know Hall's going to get probably the brunt, the lion's share of the shots. Those are four guys. Who's going to be your fifth guy? Who's going to step forward as your fifth guy? Because you got some jukes, you got an international guy. You just don't know who it's going to be. And then they got a talented freshman, Matt. This kid Magwood, who I remember seeing, Magwood. I would assume he'll come off the bench and spell Pettiford because Bruce Pearl loves nobody loves small guards more than Bruce Pearl. Nobody. But I don't think you can play those two guys together. They're similar and they can both create their shot. They can get their shot off whenever they want. They're both small. They're both a little bit wild. So I would see Magwood as a guy when you take Pettiford off the court, you put Magwood on the court.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, we all know this. Coach Pearl, one of his biggest strengths, and he's got a lot of them, and he's one of the best coaches in the entire country. I don't care where he's been. One of his biggest strengths, and you can even go back to his Tennessee teams, with guys like Chris Lofton, is the freedom that he gives these guys on the offensive end of the floor. It makes them so dangerous. If they are cranking threes, that means that those threes have an opportunity to go in. The three-point line is the greatest equalizer in all of college basketball. And with the freedom that he gives this team, and knowing if you're Keyshawn Hall, and knowing if you're Pettiford, and knowing if you're these guys that, hey, look, we're not nearly as deep as the Auburn team was maybe in years past, but we're going to still have that same level of freedom, and I don't have to look over my shoulder at who's coming in the game for me.
Yeah.
That makes you dangerous. And he gives his teams that freedom. That's one of the things that makes him such a great coach.
All right, let's go through first your X factor for this Auburn team. Can be anything, anyone, anything. What's your X factor?
I think it's got to be Pettiford. Can he take the next step? And you alluded to it. He's already had some issues off the floor this offseason. I'm sure Coach Pearl will handle that, and he'll handle that the right way. But can he take the next step as a true point guard? We know he could score. Can he make the right read? Can he come off a pick and roll and see where is the tag? Where is the help coming from? If the help's coming from the guy who's guarding the guy in the corner, can I drive down the lane and make that skip pass to hit a guy in the corner for a wide open three? Can his feel for the game take the next step? If they can do that, you can put them, in the top half of the SEC, even with all the change because of who their coach is. But him taking the next step as a point guard and improving his feel, because that's the one thing when you watched him play last year, he could come off a ball screen and go get one. Can he come off a ball screen every single time and make the right play? So the X factor for me is Pettiford, and can his feel for the game of basketball take a step forward?
So for me, one of the things Bruce Pearl teams have really had recently is incredible defense, right? Incredible defense. That's what I want to see out of this group. I think they're going to be able to score. Because, again, you're going to have two of the best scorers in college basketball in Pettiford and Hall. Are those guys going to be bought in to guarding at a high level? Because if not, you're going to be inconsistent. The one thing that made them great last year was even when they weren't making shots, they could win games with their defense.
Yeah.
I don't know if this team is going to be able to do that, Matt. Like, they got to prove to me. And it starts with Pettiford and Hall. Those guys, it's got to start with your two best players, your guys who are being paid big, big money, and one is a veteran. The other is a super talented holdover, the only real holdover that's on this team. So that's my X factor for them is defense, especially in their top two players. All right, let's go with your grade for Auburn in the offseason. Again, lost everything.
Lost everything. I mean, Janai Broom, Chad Baker Mazar,
Yep.
Chaney Johnson, Denver Jones. But you got your coach back. And there was a lot of things circulating around. Was he going to be the next head coach at Indiana? A solid B. It's amazing the clock hit 0 and they lose that much to revamp an entire roster, to have your coach back. I think it's a solid B. So I give Auburn, their staff. They lose a staff member, somebody that's been with Bruce Pearl for a long period of time. So there's a lot of change and a lot of turnover. So I'm going to give Coach Pearl and his group a B for my offseason grade.
I'm with you there. Like, they did a good job. There are a lot of unknowns, a lot of question marks with this group. Time will tell. They got Pettiford back. I don't know where he was going anyway. Like, it's not like he was going to the NBA and, you weren't going to let him walk money-wise. You got Keyshawn Hall. You got him early. After that, I just think, I don't know yet. Murphy was a good pickup. But a lot of these other guys, again, there's Overton's a nice piece. You got these Jukes. You got the international kid. Like, let's see. So I would say there's some question marks with this group that TBD. So I hate to give them a B, but I think for now, you got to give them a B until they prove otherwise. All right, your prediction / expectations for this team.
I mean, an NCAA tournament team. They're playing the best league in college basketball. They've got a coach that wins 25 games every single year. I don't know if they're not on paper a second weekend NCAA tournament team. That doesn't mean they can't get there. But I think they're an NCAA tournament team that's going to give teams I mean, the jungle is a hard place to play. One of the best environments that he's created because it was not like that before him.
It was a dump. Nobody cared. You know
but
that.
Even when they built the new arena, it was empty. You used to circle it, all right? As an assistant coach, you go down the SEC schedule and you say, okay, we got to win 14 games to win a title. And if Billy Donovan knew I was saying this, he'd call me right now and curse me out. But at Auburn, you're like, okay, we're going to get that one because there's nobody in there. As long as you create your own energy, you're going to be able to win the game. Bruce Pearl has created one of the best environments in college basketball. So I can't sit here and say that based on the roster on paper, this is an SEC championship team, but I do think they finished in the top half of the SEC.
The question is, did we think last year's team would do near what they did? No. But they came out of the gates, second game, went to Houston, beat them, got momentum. And then, again, I think everything kind of fell into place. Now, that was an older group. Let's face it, that was an older group that a lot of them had been together. That's my biggest question mark with this group is you got a lot of guys that you don't know. You also threw a bunch of dudes together. And I don't know what the chemistry is going to be like, but last year's, I keep saying it because I was around them a bunch. Last year's chemistry was really, really good.
Even after a fight on an airplane.
Yeah.
Even after a fight on an airplane, still got to the Final Four.
Exactly. So I think they're a second weekend team. I'll say this. I think they're a top 25 team all year. I think they get to a Sweet 16, and then who knows? Who knows at that point? You know that. Once you get to the second weekend, who knows what can happen? I'm just saying, I'm betting on Bruce Pearl and his staff to figure this thing out because that's how good they are. That's how good they've been. Now, you do wonder, is Bruce as locked in as he has been with everything going on now? Politics, you see him, he's involved.
He's locked in. He's
okay.
locked.
All right.
He's locked in.
I think he will be. Once the season starts, I think he will.
You don't have to worry about it. He's locked in. They'll be just fine.
All right. There you have it. Matt McCall and I both give the Auburn Tigers a B for an offseason grade. A lot of question marks with this team, but in Bruce, I think a lot of people trust right now down there in Auburn. So we'll see what happens with the Auburn Tigers this season. Make sure, again, you follow us. We're doing about 40 of these offseason grades in the field of 68. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for Matt McCall, I'm Jeff Goodman. We'll talk to you soon.